What's going on, Bills Mafia? I'm your boy TG. It's my boy Nature Boy. Welcome back, Top Billing. But before we get started, man, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, click on that notification bell, and then you know when we got our next show on. So, a lot of things going on, man, from the last show. It seemed like immediately after the last show, things started happening immediately. So,
Thanks to you. Thanks to you.
And you know what, man? I was knowing you were gonna say that. You know, when I seen it happen, man, I was just like, so last show, I know we was talking about mainly how Diggs was missing for mandatory minicamp.
Yeah.
You know, we speculated on, you know, what happened, and so the majority of the speculation going on right now is pretty much about what we talked about. But at the end of the show, you know, I had to, or we both, but mainly me, had to get my feelings about Eric Washington, man. I just think that, you know, for somebody like, you know, Leslie Frazier or Chad Hall or, and it's not much of Chad Hall, but, you know, just like any positional line or any coach, any coach, position coach, gets some type of, you know, flack about, you know, how they develop players or how they didn't move the needle.
Yeah.
Eric Washington is no different, dog. Like, Eric Washington, I think he's been there for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much every year. Every year, you know, he has not been effective. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The only thing is that they're known for rotating players, getting good, getting fresh bodies in there, and so they get some snaps or whatever to continue to, you know, put the heat on, you know, other teams. But
yeah,
Eric Washington has not been a good positional coach to where he can. He's proved that he can make players, you know, better, thrive into the system, you know, and be, you know, difference makers during the games. So, you know, when this guy got promoted, man, I was just like, just to see him get promoted to the defensive assistant head coach, I was like, or I'm sorry, not the assistant head coach. I was like, but he's not even the best coach.
Yeah, on the roster. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I was like, what happened to Holcomb? I thought maybe Holcomb probably get the nod, you know, Babbage, you know.
Even John Butler. You got to think he brought John Butler on the second year he was there. You know, he replaced Gil Bird, which I was shocked with that move. You know, back when that happened. So yeah, I thought even he would have a better shot at getting that over Eric Washington.
Yeah, Eric Washington, and it's crazy because I kind of figured that was going to happen. They had an interview. I can't remember what it was about, but you know, I always remember Eric Washington saying that, you know, they have the same mindset. They have the same, like they speak the same language when it comes to the defense, and he knows what Sean McDermott is thinking. When he said that, I was like, okay, that was interesting to say. You know what I'm saying? And then now it makes sense. You know, seeing that we had the Eric Washington promotion. You know what I'm saying? And you know, like I said, you know, Leslie Frazier got a lot of heat, you know, for this defense, being defensive coordinator, and you know, some rightfully so. You know, I say, you know, I haven't seen, you know, him Leslie Frazier be consistent with making adjustments, especially, you know, during our playoffs. But you know, Eric Washington, I don't think he, you know, to say somebody don't deserve something, you know, I think it's a little, you know, too much. But at the end of the day, man, like your results don't speak for your promotion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You being around Sean McDermott and fan, and probably more than me, fans, believe that, you know, he that was that was just a given. That was given to him. He didn't. I don't feel like he earned that promotion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If he can prove us all wrong this season, to where because he had pieces in the past, since he's been there. You know what I'm saying? And not to develop those pieces, and can't get anybody to nod to the Pro Bowl or be someone that has dominance. It can be dominant. Like Ed Oliver can be dominant. Greg Russo can be dominant.
Right.
But I just feel like he has not taken our defensive line to the next level. And I don't think that's just for him to be promoted to our defense, because he can potentially call the plays, once Sean McDermott decides to take a step back and focus more on his head coaching role.
Yeah.
And just to know that Eric Washington is going to call our plays, man, it just makes me cringe. It does, man.
Well, I think in order for Eric Washington I think us more so on the outside looking in, it don't seem like you deserve it, especially from the production that the defensive line has shown since he's been there. He doesn't seem to deserve that type of promotion. But him being, rubbing elbows with Sean McDermott as long as he's been knowing him, I guess they have, a better relationship, or like you say, more on a mental level, knowing what the guy's thinking at the same time. That kind of might help them gel. But the only way that this look like, or the only way to make sense, if we see a production jump from Boogie, from Ed, from Group, you'll have to see a production jump from all those guys. AJ, to say that, hey, this made sense. We see, because those guys, that's first and second round talent all up and down that defensive line. And they had a little jump last year, but once Von Miller went down, that you seen those flashes sparingly. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Group should have easily had 12, 13 sacks last year, But like I say, scheme, wanting to blitz your nickel and drop a defensive end, which I hate that scheme. We've been doing it for years now. I think that takes away from production from your defensive line. So yeah, he'll have to prove it with the production that our players put out there.
But are you confident? I mean,
what reason would I have to be confident?
There's none.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
and that's why I said the only way.
One reason. I think there's one reason. Sean McDermott is taking over the defense. That's the only reason I could think of.
Yeah, and that's why I say the only way to make sense is if we see a production jump from all those guys that we've drafted. If we don't see a production jump from those guys, especially Boogie, I'm not as much so worried about AJ and Group, because I feel like they have the ability to just, those guys, especially AJ, when his motor's going, man, he flying off the edge, But I'm not much so worried about them. But I need to see it from Boogie this year. He's a nice athlete. He's kind of like a tweener the way he's built. But yeah, I got to see it from Boogie this year, man. He's one of the guys.
If he doesn't get released or traded.
Yeah, that's if that happens. I mean, it's possible with the numbers that we have at defensive end. I honestly don't see them getting rid of Shaq. And Shaq was the wild card last year, to make the team. We was wondering, he brought him in late, but could he be one of the ones to be a veteran guy to get cut, going into the 53? But I feel like he solidified his spot last year. He still was the same guy against the run game off the edge, and he gets you a sack here and there. He was around 4 or 5 sacks last year. That's what his production always been with Buffalo. But yeah, Boogie, he I guess he would be the one considered to be on the hot seat going into this training camp.
Yeah. So that's mainly my point, man. Is you know, I'm not questioning Eric Washington's character. I'm not. I don't even know the guy, so I can't make any judgment upon him as a person. But you know, in regards to his work, um, you know, he hasn't really. It hasn't really been shown um, that his work his results and his work speak for himself, if that makes sense. So,
right.
I mean, I don't think his results warrant the promotion. You know, you can see his quality of work that we put on the field every week. You know what I'm saying? You know, just like you say, one person. You know, even though I think Jordan Phillips played with one arm most of the season whenever he did play.
That shoulder blew out on him, and then that hamstring blew out on him later on in the year. He was chasing somebody down, and it looked like somebody just shot him in the back with a shotgun.
I know it.
Yeah, he just collapsed in the field. Oh Lord! I said somebody out there in the stands and took him out.
Yeah, I know it. I know he probably didn't pay a debt or something. they right up they good opportunity to go ahead and take him out in the middle on national TV.
So he ain't gonna need them hamstrings.
You don't want to pay me my money, you don't want your hamstring.
For real.
Oh my God. So then you know, like I say, man, it was just poor play. You know, like I said, we've been riddled with the injury bug on defense, and Von Miller was such a big role. But like I said, we had young players to fill in. You know, you still had Shaq, we still had AJ, we still had Boogie, we still had Greg. You know, interior wise, you know, Tim Settle, Daquan Jones. I mean, Daquan Jones is our best interior line. What does that say? I mean, this guy's a veteran, so he knows how to play the game. You know what I'm saying? And
I was very disappointed in Tim Settle this past season. I expected a whole lot more out of him, man.
Why? You did?
Just I mean,
it's a coach. It's a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he flashed off the screen more in Washington.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he came down
5 sacks in Washington.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, we can go on and on about Eric Washington and how a piss poor job he did in developing his guys. But we already know the deal. I feel like the promotion was not warranted. And we'll just see what happens this season. Like I say, I hope I'm sticking my foot in my mouth. I really am. Because if I am sticking my foot in my mouth, that means our D-line is going to ball this year, regardless who's in it. You know what I'm saying? If so, hey, man, hats off, man. Like, straight up, I like being wrong sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But until we see it, I don't believe it. So, you know, next thing we want to talk about, man, you know, this right here sent shockwaves through, I guess, more of our fan base than anything. You know what I'm saying? I know people are covering it, you know, within, you know, the media aspect of it. But, you know, after what happened with the Diggs situation, in comes, now it was a week later, you know, the extension of Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. You know, that whole situation was blown out of control. I think that, you know, the media really was waiting, honestly, for what to happen in regards to, you know, Stephon showing up for practice. Because at the end of our season, they were already speculating that they had some Josh and Stephon mainly had an issue with Josh at the end of that game, of the Bengals
Right.
game. So shortly after the season, Stephon was, on the show. Can't remember what show he was on, but he was pretty much clear on his insight of how the season went and how disappointing it was to be on the losing side.
Yeah, I think that might have been on the barbershop.
I don't know if it was on no barbershop, but
yeah, I actually seen him on the barbershop podcast. LeBron James homeboys, and he was talking a lot about the type of team that we have, and like why not us? Why we can't get over this hump? He didn't really go into detail, like that, but he still.
Well, this show I'm talking about, he went in detail. He was the thing that stuck out, which I was like, man, I'm glad somebody spoke up, was the fact that a lot of our woes were in the beginning, in the mid part of our season. Like we lost our swagger in the mid part of our season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we were talking about last week, keeping teams in the game. We're not, putting teams away like we're supposed to. We're not executing. That was the biggest thing. Executing, was a huge part of our failure last year. And, Josh had his hand in it. A lot of the receivers, we won't talk about the receivers, they had their hand in it. Our offensive line had their hand in it. Offensive coordinator had his hand in it. Sean McDermott had his hand in it. So, that was the biggest thing that he was talking about, is like, like you said, why not us? We was like, we were a good team. We went through a lot, but the executing part of it happened, in the middle, more speaking, in the middle of the season on down the line. He was like, man, we came out the first part of the season, guns blazing, but after that we found we were struggling. We couldn't execute. We couldn't execute at a high level. So that was his frustration, man. And it seemed like, just like we also said, it seemed like it was almost acceptable. Like, we found ways to win. When people say that, it's like we found ways to win. That means, man, you ain't got your stuff together, man. Like, football is a game of chess. You're not gonna always just come out and just execute at a high level, but dog it, majority of the game. That's why people put Joe Burrow over Josh Allen. This dude knows how to execute. You can talk about his weapons. At the end of the day, you can talk about his weapons, but being able to dissect defenses and understand, killing the clock and clock management, and you don't always have to go for the big play. You have to make your playmakers make plays.
Yeah.
Those type of quarterbacks, man, you have a lot of success.
Just plain old get rid of the ball.
You put the ball in your playmaker's hands, man. It's 3 yards, 5 yards, 14 yards.
I mean, even throwing it out of bounds sometimes. Sometimes that's the best pass that you can make on a play, is throwing it out of bounds. Yeah. Sometimes Josh feel like he got to make something happen in that moment.
Yeah.
And it be in moments to where he puts us in the worst situation, where if he was just went on and just threw it away. That's why Aaron Rodgers is so efficient over the years. He has the ability to throw a thing away, and it don't bother him one bit. He's on to the next play. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. Throw the ball away and get ready for the next play.
Yeah. Josh got to get that Brett Favre mentality out of his head, that every play got to be a touchdown. Every play has to, end up with some type of yardage. You got to get rid of that ball sometime.
Yeah. So, that got, again, and I think that was also a part of Diggs' frustration, because he evidently, it was convicting Josh Allen for him to say, oh man, I'm more focused on football than I've ever been this year. I mean, what is this, year 6?
Right.
And it seemed like he was saying I'm sorry or something, or it seemed like he was just having a moment of humility. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? To where he understands his part in the Buffalo Bills failures.
Yeah.
And so, him having that press conference and then, following up with, Diggs, man, he's without him, this offense won't go, or, he means a lot to the offense, and I love him. I love him. And you know what I'm saying? Like, he went to certain measures to continue to show that he has his wide receivers back.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I don't think he'll ever throw Steph under the bus.
He won't. He won't ever, man. Because even when he had his very first press conference um, of the year, of course, people couldn't wait to ask that question. And
Right.
he was just like, he's a competitor. You know what I'm saying? He's still my guy. Pretty much, and he's probably doing his own thing right now. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So I hope they get that together. We'll talk about that later, but moving back to McDermott and Beane, season that Beane was, he pretty much failed as a GM. I ain't gonna say failed. That's harsh.
13-3. Come
He,
on.
he had his opportunities. Like, he's swinging missing in draft. He's swinging missing in free agency. But they fail to understand that we have had a better team progressively each year, including this year. And this is something that our fans don't understand. That Beane, one thing I like about Beane, I saw him being just 100% transparent, 100% honest. He understands and evaluates our weaknesses properly, and tries to address those areas and improve other areas as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just we're going to just overload on offensive line, or we're going to overload a linebacker. We still got to be strategic on how we run our team and business, because we just can't afford to have an all-star team that people would like for us to have. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Beane, like I said, deserved the extension. Sean McDermott was questionable for a lot of people. Some people were on the fence about, oh man, I don't know if he can get us over this hump. And other people were like, well, you got to understand that we was in a 17-year drought, and ever since McDermott came, we've been on a winning end.
Yep.
So people may not think that the Sean McDermott extension is warranted. What do you feel about that?
Well, I feel like it's warranted. Both contracts. Beane, I don't feel like last season for him wasn't a success, because he was able to do things with the amount of money that we had, that we didn't think he could pull off. And Von Miller was one of those jewels that he pulled out of free agency that blindsided us. It did. And if Von wouldn't have gotten injured, I believe Brandon Beane would have been up for general manager of the year again, just for hitting a home run on the Von Miller signing, because it would have turned to, it would have, it would have solved the issue that we had with our edge rushers, and that would have been a big deal, especially going into the playoffs. But Von got hurt, so hey, we'll never know. But Sean McDermott, from day one, he turned the culture around in Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills were the laughing stock of the league when he took over that team. We didn't know much about him outside that he had coached some pretty good defenses in Philadelphia and Carolina, especially Carolina. We know what type of defenses he had, in Carolina with Luke Kuechly and them boys. But to turn the Bills into a playoff team that first year with the roster that he took over and the turnover of that roster that he took over soon as Brandon Beane became general manager, it was nothing short of phenomenal in my eyes. It showed what a culture change and what a unit in one locker room could do together. As long as they played within the concept and the guidelines of what the head coach was preaching, and they drunk the Kool-Aid, and it showed on the field. We had a 3-game stretch that season where we had no business really making it into the playoffs, but he reeled that roster back in after getting pounded. I'm talking about ground and pound. We had a 3-week stretch there, that 17 season, where it felt like we gave up 1,000 yards in 3 games. It was terrible. But we somehow bounced back towards the end of the season, down the stretch, fought hard. We backed our way in, but we got in that thing. And we were also competitive in that first round with the roster that we had, So from that point on, he had me. He had me, and he hasn't fallen short. We give him Josh's rookie year because he was such a raw quarterback coming in. The roster was even worse than the 17 roster was. And I think we pulled out 6 games out of that season, and that was, Josh got hurt that season and missed a couple games. But from that point on, man, 10 wins every year in the playoffs every year. I mean, yeah, we might haven't got over the hump, but it's almost like the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you have a coach that's winning, that's successful, what is your reason for getting rid of them? You're in the position that you need to be in every year, and that's in the playoffs, playing for a champion, playing for, the ability to play for a championship.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you're saying.
Hold on, one thing. Any Bills fan that went through that 17-year drought and is complaining about Sean McDermott getting an extension off of the first 5 years that he's had with the first 6 years he's had with the team, yeah, they need to go drink toilet water or something. They're losing their mind.
So they become Jet fans.
Yeah, go be a Jets fan, a Browns fan.
Yeah, go be a Dolphins fan. But do you think to piggyback off your point, and then I'm gonna ask this question, is I remember when Marty Schottenheimer were with the Chargers, and he brought the Chargers, winning culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because he couldn't get the team over the hump. Yeah, I know he had odds with the front office, and he got canned after what was it?
13-3 season.
13-3 season. Maybe that's to a point right now where Bills fans don't think it's good enough. The outside world don't think it's good enough. And sometimes, collectively, Bills fans don't think it's good enough. And it's not that the fact that, we go to the playoffs every year, we find ways to win. We understand we have issues. Like, we at least supposed to have at least one Super Bowl right now. Us sitting right here in front of our cameras right now, we supposed to be at least one ring in within the McDermott era. And it's not that we're not unappreciative when it comes to being a fan. It's not the saying that we don't believe that Sean McDermott can get us over a hump. But people question whether Sean has the ability to get us over the hump because, again, we find ways to win. And sometimes, we still talk about getting better and issues with execution.
Mm-hmm.
Stephon Diggs didn't get upset because he was being what you call those, a prima donna. You know what I'm saying? He's a passionate player. We had to understand that. He's not one of those dramatic wide receivers that people talk about. You know what I'm saying? They probably categorize him like that, but he really is not like that. He's a passionate player. And for him to be upset and people still speculate about him getting targets, and it's not about being targets. It's about understanding your mixed matches and making sure that we execute and making sure that we see things. And, he wants us to win. He knows, not thinks, he knows that he can get us to victory because he can hardly be guarded unless he gets double team or bracketed.
Right.
He understands that we have an execution issue.
Mm-hmm.
For years, we've been talking about execution issues, whether it's in the run game, whether it's in our defensive line that we continue to invest in, whether it's playoffs, where, as much as we can talk about Leslie Frazier, Sean McDermott is still the head coach, number one, and he's a defensive mind, number two. So he has his hand in that. 13 seconds. Yep, allegedly, he had his hand in that. There's a lot of things from an execution standpoint to where he has his hand in as a head coach. He's our head coach. You know what I'm saying? If you can't call defensive plays and be a head coach, and people saying that that's going to be an issue, then what do you do as a head coach to where you weren't part of these failures in execution dealing with these other situations? We won't talk about Leslie Frazier being such a choke artist in the playoffs. Coach McDermott has his hands in it too. You want to talk about, how, we don't execute at a certain level throughout the year and have a running game throughout the year. Sean McDermott is our head coach. If head coaching is that difficult, the way you have to pinpoint every position and make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, you have your hands in there. So with Dable not running the ball, Dorsey not running the ball, you have your hands in there as a head coach. So therefore, that is what some Bill fans are referencing to, because you can probably use the other people as a scapegoat, but you have your hands in the pot, my G. You have the final say so.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah, they're the head coaches in their positions, but you are the head coach. You dictate what the script is, what our attack, our plan of attack is, and how we defend. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So when people look at all these things, they begin to question: are you the one to get us over the hump?
Yeah.
Are you Tony? Yeah. Are you Tony Dungy, or are you Gruden? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this is one of the things that people speculate about and they're concerned about. It's not about just the fact that, you got into the playoffs every year. Is that good enough? Like you think about, me and you old school, consider old school now. To get a female, a bad one at that, and then you get her, and then just getting her is good enough. Is that good enough? Or just keeping her, is that good enough? So this is the same thing, with McDermott. You get us, to 13 win seasons. We're going to the playoffs every year. Is that good enough? Or should we begin to challenge you as our leader? You talk about the culture. Yeah, he came in and he did a hell of a job. Not wonderful, hell of a job shifting the culture.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a good job in maintaining the culture. Now, the thing is about culture that a lot of people don't understand is that it's forever moving.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to evolve with the times and with you have to be able you don't just establish a culture and be like this is this and this is that. No, you have to be forever moving and keep your culture stabilized to where when it moves, you move with it. And you continue to put your stamp on it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Chiefs. Chiefs don't have a lot of big names. But guess what? They have a culture.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, they have
that head coach you talking about at that for the Chiefs though, he went through that same thing in Philadelphia.
He did. And this is the thing though. Here's the thing, and that's a good point. Because that was brought up as well. He had to understand his failures. You know what I'm saying? And I think he understood his failures. He didn't, apparently he evolved from that. And it took him a long time. You know what I'm saying? Sean McDermott is a coach. He's a smart coach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad thing to challenge people when you know they have certain strengths. He's smart. He's analytical. He sees things from a bigger perspective.
Mm-hmm.
He is very he respects the process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it comes to a point to where you yourself have to be challenged to get better. And it's far beyond just, you know, taking L's. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we can get used to losing. We know what losing feels like. All right. I don't want to do that again, but guess what? I know what it feels like. So let's continue to push. Some people get complacent and getting in catastrophic situations and do just enough to get out or survive.
Yeah.
But it has to get to a point to where you're the type of person that you are. You have to put it together to where you develop a killer instinct to where, you know what, I understand the game. Brandon Beane, he understands, man. From his position, he understands.
Oh, yeah.
He puts a roster together every year, and he's very analytical, and he's very truthful to himself, number one. And he knows where he can get better at as a general manager and how to prepare the team.
Mm-hmm.
McDermott, is he stubborn? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I can't say he's stubborn. I mean, it's one of those things, too, where you go off of production, and if you look at the production outside of what you actually see on the field, and sometimes that's all these analysts and these media people are looking at, the numbers.
Well,
I mean,
I don't think it's just numbers. Look at we can ask the question: is he stubborn? Kyrie Elam, did he have more snaps last year?
And during the time when Christian Benford was healthy, I don't know. I really can't say you're vouch to say that he did deserve more snaps. You know,
I didn't mean to ask, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask about Elam. I'm sorry about that. My next question was going to be about cornerback, but it was going to be Khalil Shakir. That's what I meant to ask. Shakir. Okay. Sorry, but should he have gotten more snaps last year?
Yeah, they stuck with McKenzie a little bit too long last season.
But why?
That might have more so to do with Chad Hall and the offensive coaches than it does McDermott. You know, I mean, we don't know what's going on in practice. Isaiah might be rolling in practice and then get in the game and just shit the bed. You know.
But what's the mindset? What has been coaching? He said it before. What has been his mindset behind young players?
I mean, he always want the young guys to sit, you know, behind, you know, watch, you know, before. It ain't many players that he's drafted that just jumped on the field day one. I mean,
is that a problem?
Ray White, Russo, but it ain't been many. Gabe Davis, I think he started week one, you know, his first season, but he was to me an exception. He was mature beyond his years.
He didn't start. Did he start?
No.
Was Emmanuel Sanders?
I mean, he didn't start. I mean, I'm saying he caught the first pass Josh Allen threw that season. I mean, he was on the field Okay. He went 5 wide. So I mean, he might not have been a starter, but he was out there on the field. First game, first time he put on pads in a real game. But it ain't been many rookies that we've had, that done been on the field, getting quality snaps from week one. It ain't been like that too often.
So is that a problem?
I mean, it all depends. Don't
say that. Don't say that. It's a problem.
It do.
I'm gonna say why. Because we talked about, you and I both talked about Kansas City Chiefs. They had rookies playing in their secondary. What is the logic behind playing your rookies in the beginning of the season? And how much more will it pay off for you towards the end? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, you got to let them get their feet wet.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, man. Like, that part of your mindset itself is stubborn. Like, man, you got to get these players on the field to see what they can do. And then when Shakira did get on the field, it was like he was productive. Not saying that he blew the charts out, but he made some plays, man.
Oh yeah.
But for you to even bring on Cole Beasley without even giving Shakir the opportunity to shine, what does that tell? What does that tell that player? Or what does it tell people down the outside looking in? You don't have that much faith in them. Whether you say it, you do, or you don't. Your action speaks louder than your words. Khalil Shakir should have been on that field, not Cole Beasley. Shakir should have been on that field playing that 3 position at wideout. I'm sorry. He's shown it. He has proven it. And that stubborn way of thinking where young players need to sit was, that's one of the reasons why that's one of the things that has held him back.
Yeah.
And that's a frustration. And nobody wants to talk about that. They're so quick to talk about the things that he's done for our team to make us a winning organization.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to look at these flaws that's holding him back. And his mindset is holding him back from going to the next level. These players can help you win. Look at what Kansas City did, and those ball players shine in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I get your point. I still don't feel like that's a reason to move on from somebody, though.
I'm not saying that's a reason to move on for somebody. This is a frustration. You know what I'm saying? These are, people are like, cool, glad he got down. There's other people that's pissed. I ain't gonna say pissed. They were up there, were not happy with the fact that they extended him for another 4 years. You know what I'm saying? Because they wanted to see first what he can do this season. You know what I'm saying? While being on a quote unquote hot seat to see if he can get us where we go. Because once again, being put together a formidable roster. So a lot of fans want to see, let's see what you do this year as a head coach. There's no more excuses. You got Leslie Frazier, she's your scapegoat. He's out. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be calling the defense. You know what I'm saying? You got everybody set up how you want to in your positional ranks. So now, let's see what you do as a head coach. Let's see what this team does. Because right now, we get shitted on in the media, which means nothing, by the way. But at the end of the day, we want to see certain things happen from you.
Yeah.
Not Leslie Frazier, not Ken Dorsey, from you. Because not only you sit your younger players, you also have an issue with how you manage the game.
Yeah.
Timeouts, challenges. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That can help us, get some type of momentum or change or alter, the route of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So not making smart intellectual calls or judgment, you can lose us the game too. And that I ain't gonna say that he lost us the game. If he has something to do with 13 seconds, he has his hand in it. But at the end of the day, like, you have your hands in the too when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So, and then another thing, I'm gonna say point number 3. You understand part of his philosophy is to have the run game. That's his mentality. Be physical. You know, to win a line of scrimmage. You know, whether we have the personnel, like we have to scheme up some things to where this can happen. Our backs average 4.5, 4.7. I think my boy Cook's average like 5.9 or something like that. No, last year.
He had a high average per carry average. Yeah, it was up there.
So again, this is another issue that we've been talking about for years. This is when Brian Daboll was in the early part of his years. The running game, run the football. You're the head coach. You're the head coach. You are the head coach. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, you deserve some heat in the tooth. Brian Daboll, you know, rightfully took his lashes. Ken Dorsey's taking his lashes right now.
Yeah, I honestly feel like, though, you know, Cook, he had some explosive plays, and, you know, his yards per carry was up there. But honestly, since Shade had been gone, I don't think we've actually had a back that could even be productive if he got 20 to 25 carries a game. I think it would look so different if they, you know, I don't know. I mean, I know the offensive line plays a part in it too, but I just don't feel like Devin Singletary wasn't 1,000-yard back to me. I don't care what team he played for. I don't think he got to get 1,000 yards. You know what I'm saying?
Well, bro, did they give him the carries to get there?
Yeah, I understand.
That's my first question. Did they give him the carries to get
your vision test? Yeah, I know. Use your vision test and with Devin Singletary. Yeah, he's good. He'll break a tackle here and there, run a guy over. You know, make a guy miss in the phone booth, but he's not finna take it to the house. You know what I'm saying?
But here's the thing: we don't need him to. We want the part of the running game is what we do and how our offense runs is that we needed to manage the game, control the tempo of the game. Devin Singletary for at least I know for the last 2 of his seasons was well over 800 yards in rushing.
Yeah.
They did not give him the carries. If they gave him the carries, he would have been 1,000-yard back. He would have been. I'm sorry. But he don't need to hit the home run play. We don't need him to. We need him to be a change of pace, control the tempo back, because that's the type of back that he is.
Yeah.
James Cook, he had to get his feet wet, man. You know what I'm saying? We're not looking for him to be the number 1 back. I didn't look for him to be a number 1 back in the end of last year. Maybe this year, but we didn't need him to try to be the number 1 back. We needed him to be again change of pace back that can create mismatches.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I expected more from him out of the passing game last season. I didn't see enough of that like I thought I would have.
That's what I'm saying. So again,
I think that's more of a Ken Dorsey issue though than it is Sean McDermott.
But this is what I'm saying though, dog. Like, we continue to put our foot on our neck, rightfully so, on these coordinators, or the head coach have a hand in the game plan. I am sorry.
But
Sean McDermott is not getting off the leash.
You know, it's times though when Sean McDermott done had a press conference going into a game where he emphasized the run game and we'll come out and rush for damn near 200. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that's from him putting his footprint on the offense going into that week. Now, I think he might let his foot off of the gas after that, which it shows. Anytime we have a big running game, a big game rushing, the next week we don't hand the ball off nearly as much. Like, okay, we got that out of our system. Let's go back to airing it out.
But again, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that?
To me, that falls on both, but it's more of an offensive coordinator being stubborn more so than Sean McDermott.
We already know Brian Daboll was a stubborn dude. We knew that. We knew that when Sean McDermott was just trying to bite his tongue and not really throw Dable under the bus. And many times we see many press conferences to where that happened.
Yeah.
Yo, my G, you the head coach, man. I'm sorry. Like, if I say, hey man, this is what I want to do, I understand what you want, but I need you to make this happen. Like, I'm your boss. I need you to make this happen. This needs to be the identity of our team moving forward. Yes, sir. And let's sit down and let's think of some ways of how we can, make this happen. Because this has to happen. This is going to be the identity of our team. We have not had an identity of our team in the past 3 or 4 years. We struggled. I'll put it like that. We struggled to have an identity of our team in the past 3 or 4 years. Right or wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the identity has been Josh Allen.
Exactly. So when your idea of this rushing the ball, rushing the quarterback draw, and putting your quarterback line, drawing up plays for your quarterback to run the ball, that's your idea of rushing the ball. 700 and some yards is insane.
Yeah, that's the most he had in his career. He had less than that his rookie year, and we know he didn't do nothing but take off his rookie season.
That's it. It was hike and go.
Yeah, this past season was supposed to be going into Josh running the ball, as least amount as possible, and he ended up running it more than ever.
More than ever. But you see what I'm saying, though, dog. Sean McDermott is the head coach. You have your hands in the game plans because you have the final say so. We could talk about Dallas and what what's his name is. What is his name? The head coach for Dallas.
McDaniel. I'm not McDaniel. McCarthy.
McCarthy. I would have never guessed it right now. But McCarthy, again, the offensive coordinator is not there because he believes something different.
Yeah.
That's a difference. When you're like, you know what, I'm just going to do this myself. Because apparently this offense is not being ran like I wanted to. And I know it can be better and we can have a different identity going into the game. You know what I'm saying? Dak is a turnover machine.
Right. And, well, I think that's what's going on with the Leslie Frazier move. It's the same thing. Pretty much Sean McDermott saying, hey, I do this myself.
Well, but how long did it take?
It's hard to get rid of a defensive coordinator when you top 5 in defense every year. And this coach is up for head coaching jobs every year. It's hard to just tell somebody like that to walk. You know what I'm saying? I could see if we was middle of the pack and worse every year. You know what I'm saying? But it's hard to tell somebody like that to walk.
So what was offensive? What's the dude what's the offensive coordinator for Dallas? Now he's now for the Chargers.
Moore.
Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore's offense, was it a top 10 every year he's been calling plays?
I guess pretty much so, yeah.
Top 5. I know.
I don't know. I don't give 2 shits about the Cowboys. I really don't.
You don't get 2 shits about the Cowboys, but I'm making my point. The thing is that you function this unit to be in the tops of the league consistently year in, year out. But you still missing the identity. Leslie Frazier didn't get fired or they didn't mutually agree for them to split because of his results.
Right.
He got let go or he moved forward because he could not get them over the hump. That's it. Yeah. It's no different from Sean McDermott getting fired for a consistent 13-win season, and then all of a sudden he gets fired. Why? Because he couldn't get us over the hump. And that's the same issue that we had with Leslie Frazier. For the past 3 seasons, we was a top 3 defense. And so, but in the playoffs, we look like we're 29th.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? Terrible. So therefore, guess what? You know what? I'm doing myself. Why? Because we need a different identity for this team.
Honestly, anytime we take on a top tier quarterback, our defense looks different. We took on an aging Tom Brady, and he picked us apart like he was in year 5.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. So it's hard to get somebody, Leslie Frazier, with these years. Okay, well, if I'm continuously to reconstruct this roster, and then I give you all the pieces, it's like Ken Dorsey, because he doesn't fall off this tree, off this conversation. I give you pieces to where you can operate this unit based on your system. And man, we coast through. I ain't gonna say coast, but yeah, we battled through the season. It's top ranks of the league, mad respect. And then we crap the bed when we get into where the games really matter.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So again, same thing with Ken Dorsey. I give you James Cook. I'm giving you Damon Harris. I'm giving you, Murray. I'm giving you, the dude from the little guy. The little guy. 5'6". Hardy. I give you him.
Yeah, okay, my receivers. Okay.
Yeah, I give you him, Sherfield, and I'm giving you different pieces, man. I'm giving you Kincaid. You still got Dawson Knox. I've seen that we were getting blasted off the ball midway part of the season throughout the playoffs, and we addressed those issues. If you can't get that done, we was number 2 in the league in offense.
Yeah, number 2.
Yeah. So if we can't get past that, then we need to move forward.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you say the same thing about Sean McDermott? But this is what other people are saying, though. This is how Bill fans are thinking. But honestly, shouldn't you feel the same way about Sean McDermott?
As I say, man, I done suffered through it. I done seen bad coaching. I done seen the revolving door of coaches. I don't look at no coaching staff or no coach or anybody as being that's going to be perfect or whose roster is going to be exactly what they want it to be. You know what I'm saying? You don't even have a consistency of coaching in the NFL outside of Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin, in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? But there's plenty of times that Mike Tomlin, I bet in Pittsburgh, still a nation. Those fans probably done wanted him out of there, and this man ain't never even had a losing season. But I feel like as an organization, I'm not looking at this as just the Buffalo Bills, this team here right now, but I'm talking about as an organization, longevity. Longevity means a lot to me. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's one of the reasons why Pittsburgh and also Baltimore, they don't have turnover at head coach. They just don't. They don't have turnover at head coach. If you successful, you successful. We know you have the ability to get us over the hump. Now, to say, McDermott got the extension a year early, okay, you could say that, especially coming off of the turmoil of the season that we had, as far as the off the field and a little bit of the on the field with DeMar Hamlin, I believe the upper management understood some of those circumstances, and as a head coach, he done a hell of a job in those situations. You know what I'm saying? Hell of a job. You have to commend him on that. He didn't fold. But some of the blasphemy that I've heard coming from people like Colin Coward saying that, oh yeah, the Bills organization showed Stephon Diggs by giving Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane an extension of who's running this organization and all this crap. When I hear stuff like that, I'm like, why put that bad stigma in the air? And good and damn well that's not the reason why these guys got this contract extension. Do you really think that our owner set up there and I'm saying, well, I'm gonna show Stephon Diggs, let me give these guys extension and give them
Sean Carr wasn't the only one.
Right. You know, I'm like that is the most the biggest load of crap I had heard just coming. I'm like, they are actually pumping this out to the public. And do you believe how many people are probably believing it because it's Colin Coward? They probably thought he got an inside scoop on some information like that. But if we started like barely making the playoffs, or not getting in, we getting in by the skin of our teeth. I have more questions then. But as far as like, I just don't feel Sean McDermott is getting better as well. I believe he has to learn from his mistakes just as well as any other player, and I believe he does. I mean, it's not like he's hitting his head on the wall, constantly doing the same dumb stuff. I feel like he has, he has to sign off on some of these players that Beane brings in too. So, I mean, he's not one of those stubborn coaches where it has to be his guys, anything like that. So he wants the team to progress, and then you can tell by the personnel that he brings in. He's been trying to get that defensive line right since he's got there. He's just following up a little, following up short. But the defense as a whole, I feel like in big games, man, that's where it shows he gets out coached. Sometimes it's just a bonehead play here or there, or sometimes it's just a big play at the end of the game where it's like, hell, we did all we could in that situation and still came up short, Well,
let's look at Marv Lewis. Marv Lewis kept the winning team.
Yeah, but he never won in the playoffs. They kept him for a very long time. They kept him for a very long time. And honestly, yeah, he came up short. He made it to the playoffs every year, but he never won a playoff game. So once they finally let him go, I understood it, but it wasn't after year 5. Well, not
it wasn't after year 5. Yeah, it wasn't. It's just that looking at things from both perspectives. Me, how do I feel about it? Coach McDermott's our guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One thing I would like to see happen is him evolve as a leader.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Within the coaching parameters of playing other opponents. You know what I'm saying? Like, you talk about him getting out coached. Yeah, he's been getting out coached pretty often by good head coaches. Again, the game of chess is aligned with how football is played, especially from a strategic standpoint. So, when you have coaches that that you can one up, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can never get past that many, I ain't gonna say offensive-minded coaches, but somebody like Andy Reid, he has your number. You know what I'm saying? So things like that, that's what me personally I want to see Sean McDermott. Is he the guy for the job? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. He's a very humble leader. You know what I'm saying? I believe he's a player / coach. You know what I'm saying? I think he's still a teacher. You know what I'm saying? So he brings a lot of dynamics to our team. I've never seen a culture like this within sports, to where people focus on the love for each other, and not just football.
Yeah, we hear it talked about, but as far as we see it firsthand.
I mean, you can listen to Shady. Shady talks about the culture of Buffalo, and he respects it. Like he won't say anything bad about Buffalo and how those coaches regime, how they do things. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing he will say. He's like, yeah, man, they take care of business in Buffalo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's it. So, for people to have their concerns, yeah, I think it's warranted because it's been shown consistently and for at least 3 years. You know what I'm saying? On the things we just talked about. But is McDermott the right guy for the job and will get over his hump? To your point, yeah, he's getting better. He's shown to get better in other aspects. This season, he needs to prove that he can be better from a coaching aspect during the games. So, other than that, I'm your boy TG. Before I say that, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell for our next show. We're going to have another good one. So, on that note, it's your show, Top Billy. I'm your boy TG, boy Nature Boy. We out here.
Holla.